What do you do when you have way too much to do? You take on another project. In today's video, I'm going to be diving into a 1969 351 Windsor high compression, high performance engine with a 4-barrel intake that's been sitting for a long time and has been just seized up from moisture. So I picked it up for pretty cheap, and I'm going to be diving in to see if I can resurrect it. So I've got some options for another heart for that 66 Mustang. One of them is this 351 Windsor that I picked up probably a week ago, maybe about a week ago. And I bought it pretty cheap because I'm a frugal guy and I'm a hoarder, and it was $150. So it is a 1970 351 Windsor, and it is a 4-barrel factory intake, which I believe makes this a kind of the high performance model for 69 and 70 with closed chamber heads and kind of a bigger cam. It would have come in a Mustang Mach 1 in 1970. You know, when somebody wrecked their Mustang, they'd grab this engine and throw it into their old cars, and most recently this was in a Cougar, a 67 Cougar, and it was locked up. And so I was able to pick it up. I've been able to free up a few engines, and so I thought I'd take my shot at doing this one. I figured worst case I would go ahead and pull the intake, pull the heads, and then just, you know, loosen up the pistons or take them loose from the crank and get them out, which is really essentially kind of doing a rebuild. But before we do that, I want to just dive in and look and see what kind of condition this is in. Cosmetically from the outside, it looks good. It looks like it was running a Mallory Unilite distributor with it had a carburetor on it, but the guy kept the carburetor. But as I look at the spark plugs, I see what I expected to see, which was, you know, 3 clean spark plugs and one that's rusty, and it's rustier on one side than the other. So I'm guessing that the intake valve was open on that one and water was flowing in there, and we'll verify that with a borescope. And then over here, you know, these look good. This one looks suspect there. You can see the rust on it, and so I expect that cylinder is going to have some rust in it, and it's a question of how bad and if has anything been done to free it up yet. I had an idea to use a little bit of evaporust inside the cylinders that had rust to see if I could loosen up that build up in there to see if that would free it up, and then put oil in the others. So I just used something to feed the evaporust into each of the cylinders. And once I'd done that, then I went ahead and put some lubricant in the others, kind of a concoction that I made up, composed in this case of gear oil, brake fluid, and gasoline. So we let that soak for a few days and then came back at it to see if we could free it up. After several failed attempts and several different times that I tried it, I finally decided to give up. It was not going to move, and all I was really successful in doing was loosening and tightening the bolt on the crank, which can't be a good thing. Hard to be patient. I gave it a couple of days to free up, and then I came out here and I just thought, let me just take the intake off and look under there, and I found all the bolts loose, and so the bolts came off, and then I saw push rods laying in here. So I thought, okay, somebody's been in here before. All the head bolts are loose, so I went ahead and pulled the heads off. And so somebody's already looked in this engine, and so it's exactly what we thought we were going to see, which is this cylinder is caked up, but it's not horrible. I mean, there's just a little bit of rust around the top, which I think can be cleaned up. And then over on this side, let's turn it around. I've got that stuff in here that takes rust away, and it seems like it's kind of doing its job. I'm going to go ahead and empty out the liquids in here, and then just kind of see if I can maybe get some movement out of it with using maybe a piece of wood and a dead blow. Okay, if we're looking for the worst of the damage, I think it's over here, and I think that at least without a hone job, this is not gonna work. This one is probably fine below the rings here, and and then this one is the worst in my mind. It's got buildup on the sides and the insides of the jug, and so what I'd like to do is see if I can make that one go down. If I can make that one go down, I probably have a chance of being able to get in here with a hone and then getting that piston out, checking the valves, not the valves, the rings. I'm just looking for evidence of any movement. I guess I could try this. You know what? If I could get something under it, well, we'll just keep going. Anyway, I guess I'll do that. I'll soak it and see if we can't loosen things up a little more. I sure would like to get this engine freed up. I have hopes for it. I don't even know what the bottom end looks like, but it's another one of those secrets that you find as you kind of go through, as you find out somebody was already in here and they just kind of said, big nope. But I don't say big nope. I say, I think I can do something with this. I think it's only fair that you get to see what I see. So let's just take a look. Ooh. Got a little sludge right there. Okay. I don't know what you can see, but I don't see anything too dangerous. There's a little bit of mud in here that might have come from the bottom of the pan, and when I flipped it over, it kind of went to the top. We didn't look inside the pan. Let's take a look. Yeah, there's some mud or something right in here. All right, maybe it was just some dirt that got in when the engine was open. But my biggest thing that I want to see is, what do the rods look like, or not the rods, the rod bearings. What do the rod bearings look like? And so I think that I can probably get a bunch of these off. These two I can get off. Those two I can get off. So that's the first couple. This is going to be a little harder. This one is the same way. This one for sure. And then I think I can get these off. Well, this one's going to be tough on this side, but that one should spin easily. I can leave it there, I think, until I get the whole thing going. And let's look at that timing chain. Feels good, and it looks like a double roller timing chain. I wouldn't be surprised if this had a cam in it, but I guess there's really no way for me to know. Looking at these, all of these fell out pretty much when I turned it over. I kind of kept them in order, but they look good. I don't see a lot of wear on them, and so I'm trying to keep them in order because I want to put them in the same place on the cam, because they will develop wear over time to the cam. And so I mean, obviously these are probably replacements, but I don't see any marks on them. There's a couple that didn't come out. I think there's 3 that didn't come out, so there's 1 missing here, and then there's 2 more in order. So I was thinking if they fall out, we'll put them in order. If not, I'm not going to try to pull them out at this point in time. Let me pull off one of these connecting rods, and we'll look at the bearing and see what it looks like. It looks like it's going to be a little bit bigger size, like maybe a 9/16. So let me do that, and I'll bring you back then. I cleared a space for the pistons, and now I could just rattle gun these off. One of the values of being able to determine the quality of the build by determining if all the torque felt pretty even. Now this one right here is a bad cylinder, so I'm going to wait to take that one out. I think this one is a good one over here on this side. So let's take a look. Oh, that's a bad one too. Okay, so we can't easily get those two out, I think, until the crank is coming out. Let's go over here. No, let's go maybe here. We can do this one. And I think these two are probably, that's smooth. And that one's close to the top and it's smooth. So let's see. Oh man, I don't know if I can get to that one. Let's take this one off. And that's going to be, I don't know what number that is. That's on the, oh yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, they're not super tight. I mean, I'm using a big extension here, but let's just see what we got. Great. All right, let's see if we can get this off. Okay, it looks like the bearing is still here. Let's take a look at it. That's standard. It's a standard bore crank rod, so the crank has not been turned down. That's good news. It looks good, and now I need to figure out how to get that piston out. So let's see if it'll come out. Oh shoot, you know what? It's going to be a problem because once it gets off of the crank, it has to get around the crank and then come out through the, I mean, there's just not a lot of room in there for when the crank doesn't move. So that kind of puts a damper on my plans here. There isn't a lot of room in here to get the pistons out when the crank almost has to be straight up and down, so that it does, and actually, like if it's in the down position, it's easier to get the crank, to get the rod nuts off of the crank where they don't scratch it, and get them straight so that you can go out with the piston. And so, for instance, this one, which I took off already, there's just no room. I mean, you can see it. It's going to go forward and it's going to hit. You can't really see it, but it's going to hit the block right there, and there's just no place for it to go. So that's a poor choice of one to pull out. So we'll just put that one back for now. Something I could do would be to take out these caps and then try to pull the crank up, and then see if that doesn't, I mean, I'm assuming the pistons will come out through the back of the holes, and then I'll just end up with, I'll probably lose the spacers that go between the crank and the I don't know the terminology, but the crank and the girdles that for the block, that space it all out, because it has to be, you can't have a lot of back and forth play, and so they put spacers in there. And so those spacers have to be put back where they belong, or it needs to be remeasured and redone. So, but we have more information than we did a while ago. I think we're pretty good shape. Like this is one I think I might be able to get out right here. I think I can go, because you can see it's a little bit farther back in the stroke than this one is. This one, if it wasn't all rusty, actually, if I can get that one out, except I can't get that bolt off. I think if I loosen that, I might be able to get it off and then get that one out. Maybe I'll try that. I'll just use a wrench on it and see if I can get it to loosen up. So, all right. So yeah, it's a rainy day and we're just in here messing around with this. And so I got those two pistons out, and this last one is the one that's holding it up. I was able to loosen the nuts on the back of it, and I've got movement. So that's good news. Now, it's been a long journey working a little at a time, not without its consequences. We did damage the crank on this block, and it happened when I was driving out one of the pistons, and I did not see that it was making contact with the crank, that the threads were making contact with the crank. and you can see it there. And so that's going to have to be turned down. I mean, some people might say you could kind of take some emery cloth and rub that out. But when they say that when you ding a crank, that it bulges at the edges as it displaces metal, and those bulges are really what's bad, not necessarily the divot. But I would need to take a file and try to clean this up, and I can feel it with my finger, which means that it's at least, I think, 5 or 6 thousandths high. So I actually made a phone call today and found out there's a place that will turn the crank for what I would consider to be a relatively low price, and they're well-known place. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That means I'll have to take off the pulley, the balancer, the timing chain, and then whatever else needs to come off to do that. So I'll be working on that in the next couple of days. And then over here we've got the pistons, and 3 of them were seized, and I was able to drive them out, which probably damages the rings, but the rings were really wedged into the ring lands, and they were just kind of caked with rust. And so it took a lot to get those out. I had to kind of make some tools to start making them come out. I finally did get them out, and I used an old piston ring to clean out the grooves and all the corrosion that was in there. I used my cleaner, my ultrasonic cleaner, as well as acetone. Kind of did a combination of those two. I think I've got something in there like Simple Green or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do know that it has a bit of an effect if you leave it in there too long. So I'm looking for you can see a little bit of kind of corrosion on here from that. But I mean, it works. It worked. So at this point, these pistons are 40 thousandths over. That crank was, just a standard bore. This thing was last rebuilt in 1983. These have a date code on them that tells me that. So when I was graduating from high school, this engine was ready to go, and it was, running around. And at some point, it quit running around, and it sat, and that was to its detriment. So we'll put some new rings in it. I did order another hone for these cylinders because I thought I had one, but it didn't go to 4 inches. I think I got it for motorcycles, and then I can't find my my hone that has the 3 stones in it, and so I ordered another one. It should be here in a day or two. But when it does, I'll get in here. Actually, let's see if we can look in the cylinders. I haven't really given it a great look, but I think the concern would be, actually that one has, I don't know if that's a wipe. The concern would be the ones that had a lot of rust in them, but they actually all look really good to me. I can't look in the other ones too well. Let's see what we can do here. Put you down here. Oops. That doesn't really help. That one. Oh, that one looks pretty bad right there. I don't know. Let me get you up here. You can look up here. You can see that it's got some kind of a buildup on it. Hopefully we can get that cleaned up. And that one is probably fine. And that one looks like it's all right. So it's been a bit of a journey, but I'm thinking that it's gonna live again. And so I appreciate you coming with me this far along, and we'll keep working on it when we have time. I haven't put a whole day of work into this. I've put a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, as we've had some bad weather, and I've been able to sneak off from the farm to do some of these things. So with that, I appreciate you watching, and we'll look forward to making more progress on this thing. Thanks for watching.